In the year 1487 in the HAIUan calendar, as the annual supergiant upwelling current rose, the residents of Sky Island were all in high spirits and full of interest. They followed the god of Sky Island, Ganfor, and stood on the edge of Arpagiadu, the island of gods, looking forward to the gift from King Hay that this current would bring them. For those who have lived on the Sky Island for a long time, King Hay has always seemed like a legendary existence. Only when the super large ocean current occurs once a year can they have an intersection with the world of King Hay at the same time. They can also feel the vast world under their feet. On the other side, unknown to the public, the Shandiay people were staring at Arpagiadu, the island of gods that originally belonged to them. With anger and unwillingness on their faces at the same time, they were planning in their hearts how to defeat Ganfor, the god of the Sky Island, and take back their own homeland. As the rumbling sound of water gradually approached the Sky Island, a huge stream of water flew from below the sea of clouds to above the Sky Island. Unlike the normal upwelling currents, the annual supergiant upwelling current passes out extremely fierce seawater. Not only is the current very strong, but the height is also the highest in history. A thick ocean current as big as the entire island turned into a water squadron, spinning rapidly into the sky, surpassing the tallest pines of Arpagiadu, the island of gods, as if it was about to fly to the moon. This caused heavy rain to fall across the entire Sky Island, which with countless gifts from King Hay scattered around the entire Sky Island. The guards held up an umbrella for God Ganfor. But Ganfor waved his hand and ordered the guards around him. Order the gods guard to collect these things as quickly as possible. If there are any surviving King Hay people, protect them well. Understood, Lord Ganfor. The guards bowed respectfully and dispersed, ready to carry out Ganfor's orders. While the guards were collecting gifts from King Hay, in the huge ocean current, there was a small boat that looked ordinary. The boat was carried by the current to the place where the Shandiay people lived, so it was not discovered by the people of the gods guard. The local Shandiay people were venting their anger at this time and did not notice the boat, so they let it drift in the sea of clouds. Somewhere in the sea of clouds on the Sky Island, the boat finally reached the shore after drifting for several times, and then floated there without any movement. The surrounding forest also cooperated and did not make any sound. Not long after, a creaking sound was heard in the jungle, and a child about 6 years old walked out of the forest. The child seemed very cautious. He looked around carefully a few times after making sure that there was no one around. He walked to the side of the boat happily and secretly, then he stretched out his scarred hands and climbed onto the boat through the damaged part of the cabin. The child walked lightly on the deck, as if he was afraid of disturbing anything in the ship. He looked around the ship with a pair of bright eyes, and after making sure that there was no accident, he secretly walked into the cabin, muttering to himself, "Hopefully we'll find something good." However, the little boy who walked into the cabin was somewhat disappointed. It turned out that due to the terrible upwelling current, the cabin had already been badly damaged and had several large holes. No one knew where the things inside had flowed to along with the damaged parts of the cabin. But just as the little boy was about to leave the cabin with disappointment on his face, he suddenly heard a strange noise. The little boy shrank in fear and slowly turned around. Then he was surprised to find a wine barrel placed in a hole in the corner of the cabin. It turned out that the barrel was stuck in the crack of the cabin, and it was stuck there. Fortunately, it didn't flow out. That's great. The little boy clenched his fists with some joy. It seems that God has blessed me and my trip was not in vain. Maybe there are some good things in here. The little boy walked to the wine barrel with anticipation on his face, preparing to move the wine barrel to the cabin door first. But it seemed that the little boy had been hungry for a while and didn't have much strength to move the barrel. Forget it. Open the barrel first and see if there is anything good inside. As the little boy spoke, he took out an iron rod from the package on his back and pried it hard at the mouth of the bucket. As the little boy's face turned red from the effort, another the bucket was pried open with a click. The little boy looked into the barrel expectantly, and then exclaimed, "Ah!" The little boy was frightened because there was no food or drink in the barrel, and nothing else that the little boy was interested in. There was only a boy who looked about the same age as the little boy. He had red hair and was wearing very luxurious clothes. He was curled up in the barrel. The little boy carefully stretched out his finger to try to see if the child was still alive. Fortunately, the boy in the barrel was still breathing. Still alive. Looks like he fainted after being in the barrel for too long, the little boy guessed, then reached out and shook the guy in front of him, hoping to wake him up. After a few seconds, the boy in the barrel was awakened by the little boy, and then he looked at the little boy with blurry eyes and asked, "Where is this?" Zhao Yan felt very tired, and a feeling of weakness spread all over his body. He didn't even have the strength to open his eyes at the same time. He felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. He opened his eyes unconsciously after he felt someone shaking him. After the dazzling sunlight, he saw a 5-year-old boy looking at him curiously. This made him a little confused. Where is this? Zhao Yan clearly remembered that he was sleeping at home, so how did he end up here? And who was this little boy? Why was he at home? However, after getting used to the sunlight, he turned around and looked at the environment he was in, and decisively gave up this idea. The huge trees that supported the sky, the river with flowing clouds, and the strange child in front of him. This is obviously a primeval forest with a fantasy style. How can this be his home? This made him sober up instantly. Hey, little guy, where is this? Zhao Yan tried his best to keep his tone gentle so as not to scare the little boy in front of him. After all, this little boy might be the only one who understood his current situation. But as soon as he said it, he felt something was wrong. Zhao Yan was very familiar with his own voice, but the sound he made now was so strange. It was not his own voice at all. Then he looked at his body again. The arms became smaller, the legs became smaller, the body became smaller, the whole person became smaller. He was wearing extremely gorgeous clothes, like those worn by European princes and nobles, with a huge ruby inlaid on his chest. Hey, what's going on? What's happening? Zhao Yan shook his head, somewhat unbelieving in what he was seeing. At this moment, the little boy in front of him looked at him with a strange expression and said with caution, "This is Sky Island. You are from Pinghe, so you naturally don't know this place." Sky Island, Pinghe. Why does this word sound so familiar? Oh, isn't this the place from One Piece? Zhao Yan couldn't accept what was happening in front of him and cursed. Huh, I actually traveled through time and came to the world of One Piece and came to Sky Island.